Now, 29-year-old Alan Feely died on the 13th of November after he suffered a brain hemorrhage 2 days earlier. But despite that awful tragedy, Alan managed to save the lives of 5 others by generously donating 6 of his organs.
With Organ Donor Awareness Week kicking off this Saturday, Alan's girlfriend Louise Galvin and his brother Liam Feely join us now to tell us about what a remarkable individual Alan was, and to discuss the importance of organ donation and how important it is to express that to those around you. Louise and Liam, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I know it's still raw with you and it's still painful to talk about, but you're doing it in the hope of saving others. Liam, do you mind if I come to you, because you were with Alan when he was struck down with a brain hemorrhage? You were in the gym.
Yeah, well, I suppose if I start with it was a normal day routine for us. I live with Alan in Limerick, a group of friends of ours too, and like any other evening we said we'd go to the gym, and he had dinner with Louise just before we left, and then we did a normal session. He was competitive as always. We were trying to catch up with him. He was always the strongest. But we were there once after about an hour and a half. Everything was going fine, and all of a sudden in front of me he collapsed, and my initial feeling was he's fainted, because it can happen sometimes. But after a minute or two we quickly realised it was something more serious. So of course paramedics and everything came and rushed to hospital, and from there it was a case of the weight, you know, and we kind of had an idea it was pretty serious, and we were drip fed knowledge, and Louise got into us and few friends got into us, and we were, you know, family were notified. So
you knew quite soon into this that it had been such a massive brain hemorrhage that the chances of him recovering were quite slim.
Yeah, like I asked the doctors to be honest with me straight up. Yeah. So I kind of knew fairly early, and Louise was with me at this stage. We knew fairly early how serious it was. So then I suppose it was a matter of processing this in our minds and what it was going to entail, and you know, it was a crazy world at that stage. But yeah, I suppose.
But the one thing that Alan had expressed to you both, and which is interesting for someone so young, is that he had expressed a very clear desire to want to be an organ donor if anything ever did happen to him. So while all of this awful turmoil is going on and the person you love more than anyone else in the world is leaving you, at what stage did you think, OK, he mentioned that to me, this is important?
Well, I suppose in the hours after, while Alan was lying in ICU, the consultants would have kind of mentioned to us in passing that this decision was going to have to be made. We were waiting for my parents to arrive as well, who were ultimately...
What did they say, Liam? For a conversation like that, how does it happen?
Look, they put it out straight with you. At this stage we knew Alan was going to die, you know, within the next day. So I suppose it was a case of, do you know if Alan would like to donate his organs, and this is the process if it is, this is the process if it isn't. And I just told us that our parents, because they were next of kin, were going to be asked the official question, even though we had an idea ourselves what the answer would be. So
it was down to, Louise, I'm going to bring you in here, it was down to Alan's parents ultimately to decide whether his organs would be donated or not, and he had thankfully spoken to his mother about it.
Yeah, Alan had spoken to his mother, Kathleen, during the summer. I think it was over an article in the paper where there's a transplant recipient that they were discussing, and he just mentioned that, you know, if ever anything should happen to him, he would want his organs to be donated. And it would always be down to...
the same to you as well?
Yeah, I work in the regional hospital in Limerick, and I work with cystic fibrosis patients as physio. So I was discussing with him a last February patient of ours had received a lung transplant, and how fantastic it was, and the massive change to his life and to his family's life. And he just thought it was unbelievable. And again, should anything ever happen, you know, his attitude was, why wouldn't you?
Is it different though when it goes from being theoretical to being real? I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, I'd like to be an organ donor, or I'd like my loved one to be an organ donor. But when you're faced with actually having to say, while the person is still alive, effectively, let's agree to this.
I don't think so, because I suppose we're all fairly grounded, and I mean, we knew the tests in the hospital were fairly conclusive. I mean, you would have 2 what's called brainstem tests, and it was very clear that, you know, Alan was not going to make any recovery, and if anything, you take a bit of solace from the fact that even in death you're helping other people, and possibly the most vulnerable people in our society.
And do you know who he helped? Do you know any of them?
No. Well,
you're not allowed to, are you?
Yeah, well, basically what happens, our parents would have got a letter notifying them of the demographic of who got the organs and kind of what organs they got.
Yeah,
what
just the age
no
and the
name.
gender.
Yeah,
And how many people did he have?
5 people, 6
Isn't that
six
amazing?
organs, yeah.
And do your parents feel that that in some way has given them some solace, some succour, that despite his very, very early and tragic passing, he has gone on to help other people?
Yeah. I mean, in the initial days after obviously Alan's passing, around the time of the funeral, we were aware obviously that his organs were transplanted, but you're not really processing it. I mean, you're just in the depths of despair, you're rock bottom. And it's very difficult, but as the days passed and you're trying to grasp at something, you kind of do get a bit of solace, a bit of, well, you know, Alan's death wasn't in vain. And I suppose what as was mentioned to us is, yeah, his organ saved 5 lives, but hopefully from the campaign that his family and friends have begun now, maybe his legacy is to help even more by more people signing up to be organ donors.
And did he sign up because he was into a sort of relatively risky sports? I mean, he did bungee jumping, he did diving and all that kind of stuff. Was it because of that he thought, I take risks, therefore I should sign up? Or
no, I don't think so. I think he just thought, you know, if unfortunately he was ever to pass, he loved to help other people because he was a very generous person in life. So he was going to be in death as well.
And Liam, when your parents eventually arrived at the hospital, they had to make the ultimate call. Was there a moment where they paused, or was it with that heartbeat, they were his wishes, that's what he wanted?
No. I suppose because we'd had the conversation,
yeah.
it wasn't a decision anymore. It was just a confirmation of Alan's wishes. So I mean, when you're in the depths of despair at this stage, it's very easy to just say, yeah, that's what we want.
Is that why you would ask people to express their wish to their nearest and dearest? Because at that moment, as you say, you're in the depths of despair.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to think about is whether to donate organs or not, or what their wish was. So it's so important, no matter what age you are, to say to those around you, I do want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversation no one really wants to have about their death or their possible death and donating organs. But what I would say, having the conversation now is a lot easier than having the conversation with other family when the time of someone's death has come.
It's such a short window as well. I mean, obviously the staff in the hospital in the region of Limerick are fantastic to us, but at the same time, the organs are only viable for a certain amount of time, and they have to get prospective recipients briefed and ready and up to Dublin. So it's not like you've days to discuss this either. So
you've obviously talked an awful lot about this as part of the campaign since then. Do you find people have a difficulty with the either or, that it's all organs? It's one thing to say I'll donate something that I never see, like a kidney. Do people have difficulty when it gets things like eyes?
Well, yeah, that's something that people would have considered before, but I don't think they transplant corneas anymore, actually. People wonder questions like, would I be disfigured, anything like that, and, to be straight up about it, and no, you're not. The dignity of for example, Alan was maintained at all times, and it didn't interfere.
So the only way the family knows is that it's declared to them.
Yeah,
other than that, the burial is the same.
Burial, everything is the same.
And you've obviously chosen to speak out about this, which isn't easy. I can see how much you miss him. It's still really raw with both of you. You chose to do this because you want other people to be aware and be able to save other people's lives. Because we aren't great at donating organs in this country. We could be an awful lot better. Yeah,
I think we're hovering around mid-table in the European leagues, and it's not just the availability of organs; it's infrastructural and financial issues as well. But we just thought if we can try to leave the world a better place than we found it, like Alan did, and maybe just to run with a campaign like this to try and help keep his memory alive, and maybe help other people, because unfortunately, even though Alan last year was a record year, as I'm sure we discussed earlier with Mary Kennedy, there are still roughly 650 people in the country on the waiting list.
Yeah. So turn around to the people at home right now and tell them, or donate everything. That's what people have to do. Guys, thank you so much. And I know it's hard for you to do it, and I know you're doing it for Alan and for other people, so it is a lovely way to keep his memory alive. Liam and Louise, thank you very much for coming in today.